All right, guys. Appreciate everybody joining me again today for another college baseball coach interview. This is Andy Drake, Senior Elite Program Coordinator here with NCSA Baseball, and I'm talking today with Coach Ryan Evangelho from Sierra College. Coach, how you doing today?
Good. How are you, Andy? Glad to
I'm
be
doing
here.
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you joining. So I know you guys are off to a pretty solid start, man. Tell us a little bit about how the season's coming along so far.
Yeah, we're 6-3 right now. Played some good teams. We're very young on the staff this year, and position player wise, we are a veteran unit. I would like to say, but we're young on the mound, young behind the plate. Just keeping these guys rolling. The whole thing that it doesn't rain in California. It's raining right now. We're gonna go hit at our indoor facility this morning, and we got a 4 game week ahead of us and a lot of rain. So we're going to see how we can navigate this week before we get into conference play next week, which is showing a little bit more rain, which we've been blessed. It's been, absolutely beautiful here in California. Sometimes we get these late storm systems that roll in. So it'll be challenging to get the boys their work in that they need to do to get ready.
Well, hopefully it holds up. I'm in Michigan, man. We're like getting our snowpack finally melting up here, so I'm still jealous even of
I
the
know,
rain.
I know.
So
It's
awesome.
58 degrees here. We're freezing.
That's great. All right, so Coach, tell us a little bit more about for our families that may not be as familiar. California junior college baseball. It's very unique. It's sort of experience. It's a unique sort of like I guess just sort of place where you guys are sort of like amongst yourselves there. So tell us a little bit about kind of how California JUCO works, some of the differences from like the NJCAA or the NWAC. Like, how do you guys sort of like become a different sort of place for JUCO opportunities?
Yeah, the cool thing is, I guess for me, I was a JC guy myself, played at College of San Mateo, and then got a scholarship to play at University of San Francisco under Rich Hill, played Division I ball up there. But I think the biggest thing for families coming to California is that I always try to be upfront with them that we don't have scholarships in California. There's no California JCs that offer scholarships. So sometimes that can be a little bit challenging for families. With that being said, we, usually have 4 or 5 people from out of state every single year. For a while, we had a Japanese kid or two from international that would come here. I think because Sierra was one of the only schools that had dorms. We just opened up $170 million dorm on our campus, which is brand new, right in the middle of campus. They just opened it up
Mm,
this semester halfway, and then it'll be fully open next year. So it's really appealing to, I think, student athletes to be able to live on campus. They don't have to bring their cars. They're right there in the middle of campus at Sierra. And then just the Rockland area, we're about, 35 minutes north of Sacramento downtown, where like the Kings play and everything. And it's just an awesome suburb. I think Rockland was rated the #1 place to raise a family. So super nice area, tons of stuff for the boys to do. Great place to raise a family and just a safe environment for the student athletes to get it in the academic world and on the baseball field.
absolutely. And you guys are in a very fertile area for college baseball, recruits, potential recruits for you guys. So you mentioned maybe a few guys coming in, from out of state, but I would guess that most of your recruiting is done pretty locally, right? Kind of talk about sort of where you guys look. How do you generally put together your recruiting list?
I mean, obviously every day I'm getting emails. So, me and the assistant coaches are dispersing out of area emails on guys. Those are always hard because we just don't know how good of a player it is or if it's the right fit for us. I'm always very conscious of bringing in a player from out of state that, is going to come in and not make a team or, be here and get minimal playing time. So we try to do our homework as much as we can on out of area guys. And it's nice because we do have some contacts out of the area that help us with that too. And it's nice to know a coach from, Reno, like Coach Savage up there, who sends me guys and you trust and know that his guys will be able to play for you at the next level. Because it is a, expense commitment for the parents and everyone, even though it's not a university. So, and then the local guys are just, they're always good. I mean, Sierra, when we first got there with Coach Wilson, I was an assistant coach in 2002. And, we used to start recruiting and they said Sierra had never had coaches out before. We kind of built the program and getting out there and recruiting good players. And, I love to coach really good dudes. So that's a big part of who I recruit. And, we want to surround ourselves with the best people possible. And then as a coaching staff, we're trying to make sure that these kids are, growing up to be good citizens and good people and take care of business in the classroom and outside the field. So that's important to me. Values are super important. And then have the skill to be a good athlete as well. It's awesome. And people used to say JC was for kids that weren't very academic. Well, my guys are really academic, and it makes my life easier because the first thing these D1s call me and ask is send his transcripts. They don't care how hard he throws or what his pop time is. So it's always pleasing to send a transcript when a guy's got a 3.8 and he's on his way to get his degree, and we can send him off with flying colors and have success at the next level.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned the non-athletic scholarship aspect of it. That's an important piece of it. There are also some unique contact rules as far as like sometimes there's a first contact that has to be made. Can you kind of break that down a little bit as far as like your region versus out of your region versus for out of state guys? How does that kind of work for California Junior College as far as like starting the conversation with you?
Yeah, it used to be where we were in our own little zones and
Hmm.
we couldn't contact anyone outside of our zones. That has opened up more
Okay.
of late so we can talk to people. Usually when kids contact me through email, then that kind of opens the airway to have a conversation with them, get to know them a little bit better, and then ultimately have a campus visit where we can walk them around and show them the campus. We just built a year ago, we opened a $70 million weight room, gymnasium, locker rooms for athletics. So it's a D1 weight room now. I coach weights at the school. It's come a long way. Sierra's kind of an older college. It's been around for a while. I mean, the 49ers used to have training camp back there, the Jerry Rice, Joe Montana days. They used to have their training camp there every year. People would come up to Rockland to watch that. That's why we originally got dorms. Now they've revamped and put brand new ones and updated the gym and weight room and everything. So it's a spectacular campus to come and see and check out. And right in the heart of Rockland, it's a sweet game. And
Awesome.
we play in the Big Eight Conference, which is a very, very good conference. We're typically sending up to 7 teams to the playoffs every year because we play good schedules and we got good talent. And then, one or two of those teams are usually going pretty deep in the playoffs.
Talk more about the competition level. What kind of players are you looking for? What kind of players, are coming out that you're sending out? Talk a little bit more about kind of the level of player, that you guys are seeing day in and day out in your league.
Yeah. I mean, when we get into conference, it's 88 to 91, 92 every single day on the mound. It's some super athletic position players. I've always been asked the question, like, do you want to be a Division I coach? And I'm like, no, I want to stay JC and be close to my family. And I get to coach D1 guys every year. I mean, we have my shortstops already signed in Nevada Reno. This is before we even started this year. And then my ace Matthias is, he's up to 95 the other day, signed at UConn. So I get to get these guys a little bit more raw and develop them into the players they're going to be at the next level. And then just following guys that opened up this weekend. Cam State, our lefty at St. Mary's, got a win on his first outing. Jake Redding, my catcher, who we lost after our freshman year. So he's got 3 years now. He's playing for my old coach, Rich Hill at University of Hawaii. He was 3 for 4 player of the game the other day for University of Hawaii. So just living through these guys' dreams of, playing at the next level and getting to see them develop is awesome.
And it's pretty cool to watch that development, right? Because a lot of those guys probably come to you and they may not have been quite at that level that day they got to you, but you're able to kind of help them kind of get to the point where they're able to see those kind of opportunities.
Yeah, correct. I mean, and even the guys that bounce back to us from Division I levels, they just weren't ready at that time out of high school. And, we've had a few of those guys obviously in the past and they've come to us and it's got a chance to get them on the field and get 70, 80 at bats and really prove that you can be
Mm-hmm.
that level of player. Where it wasn't, they were at a D1 and maybe they're stuck behind 2 or 3 guys, which it happens for sure. And you can't develop without playing. I mean, you can practice and hit in the cages all you want, but that in-game stuff is so important for those guys to develop and make adjustments and, on the mound and as a position player as well.
No doubt. You've been at this for a while, coach. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on, recruiting has changed a lot in the last handful of years, right? With, the implementation of the transfer portal, some extra years the guys have been getting, conversations about whether junior college might end up, not count. Like there's a lot of stuff that's changed, may still be changing down the road. Talk about kind of what's been some of the differences for you and kind of how you've attacked recruiting, compare like 2017 to today. How has it changed for you?
Yeah, I think a lot more stuff's digital, so obviously we're seeing a lot more influx of emails and
Hmm.
stat-driven exit velos, and the kids sending that kind of stuff to us. And honestly, I could watch a video all day and think the kid's really, really good, and then we get him here the first day and it's kind of a struggle. And then I could watch a video of a kid that didn't look great, and he ends up saying, "Coach, I'm gonna prove you wrong," and shows up and he's really, really good and battles his butt off. So those intangibles are always hard, for us coaches to figure out. And I always tell my guys this: the starting lineup that I put up day one is never the one we end with. And the amount of guys we use every game, whether it's matchups or just getting guys opportunities, keeping guys fresh off the bench, getting them at bats is important to me. But definitely the recruiting landscape has changed with the whole digital world, and what the younger generation holds as like a really good benchmark, whether that's a 97 exit velo or launch angler or whatever, all the other stuff that they're doing now. So we're trying to blend the new school with the old school, with some of that stuff. But just the eye test is always the really important one. And
Yeah.
if we recruit you to come to Sierra, you're likely going to make our fall team where we're playing, almost 30 fall games. We have beautiful weather when the fall hits. So we're playing, 2 games a week. We're getting to see these guys every day, throw, see them hit every day, play live a lot, and then we get to the spring and we'll kind of make our decisions where we're going with our spring roster and stuff like that. So we're lucky this year. Like we had about 50 guys this year, so it was a smaller group, and not having a huge group of 80 or 90 guys is important to me, just because I think that's the only way that they get to develop. Right? I mean, you can't have batting practice in the fall when you have 45 position players. It would take you 3 hours. And you're trying to implement your system and how you do things, especially at Sierra, like how we run rundowns, how we talk verbally, how we work on our locations on the mound and the catcher's set up. And, you want them to get their reps and get their work in because the development part's so big on that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, when you talk about kind of the numbers, you mentioned having about 50 in the fall. Do you end up kind of paring that down for the spring then? What do you kind of end up trying to get to for the spring season?
Yeah, there's no set number. We're
Yeah, yeah.
usually around 33,
Hmm.
34, somewhere in there. About 13 of them are pitchers,
Hmm.
about 20 position players. We're actually lighter than that right now. I think we're at like 29. We usually try to come back a little heavier on the mound because we never know. They get about a month off before the spring hits, and you may lose a guy because he's not prepared and didn't work as hard over the break and comes up with an elbow or a shoulder, so you lose an arm. And then early in the season, you're trying to monitor their innings. So we're really not throwing guys a lot. So you're kind of using everyone on that end. So to come back a little heavier on the mound is always important. Sometimes every once in a while, it's been a while, but you lose a guy to eligibility or whatever it may be. So we want to make sure that we take care of those arms. And I think having a little bit more on the arm side is important to take care of them. But yeah, they have so much expertise at their hands, and they want to work so hard all the time, where trying to get these guys to back off for a few weeks over Christmas break is hard to do.
Yeah, there's a lot that they can be doing, and especially with the opportunities they have with some of the facilities you guys have and so forth. If they're in the area, they can probably get there and put some
Yeah.
work in, even when you guys are off campus, right?
Yeah, they're sneaking out there whenever they can.
So, Coach, let's go back to like kind of the recruiting specifics of things. I'd love to hear kind of like your timeline. And I know in like junior college, it's a lot of moving parts, man. Guys are kind of coming and going sort of like all the time in some ways. But, how does kind of the timeline work? When do you start to really sort of get after? Like, so for example, 26s, what are you still doing, if anything? 27s, what are we doing? Kind of talk a little bit about your timeline and kind of how your whiteboard is coming together.
I think everyone's different.
Yeah.
For us, we start on the 26s. Last year we kind of eyeballed some guys and saw them, and then we're following up with them this fall as much as we can. And then we get into the spring, it's kind of tough for us because we're playing and trying to go watch high school games and put eyes on guys. But we've had a lot of guys on recruiting trips already. We've probably had 5 or 6 commitments already that are coming to Sierra for next year. Um, so that always helps too. It helps us with our depth chart, understanding we got a guy that's coming in, and we don't need to get another middle infield. Like we lose 6 middle infielders next year that can really play the infield. So infield's been a huge glaring point for the coaching staff and making sure that we're recruiting next year, because some freshmen are going to get some opportunities to step in and play right away in the infield, losing a bunch of infielders. And then we're constantly still on these guys about coming to Sierra. And, there's a lot of guys that are holding out for a D1 scholarship or a D2 scholarship. So I totally understand that too. And sometimes it's nice to know, like, hey, coach, if a D1 comes calling, I'm going to go D1. But if a JC is there, then I'm coming to Sierra. Like that, I think
Mhm.
helps us too, knowing that if this guy doesn't get a D1 scholarship, Sierra's his choice or whatever. But I always tell these kids, there's always a bunch of great coaches. Try to find your fit wherever that may be. Apply to school. You can apply to Sierra, Butte College, Yuba College, and it doesn't lock you into going to any of these schools, but it does help you get that process going. You get a student ID number back, then you're ready to tell me, like I said, whenever you guys are ready to tell me, let coach know, let me know. I can get you right to our athletic counselor. We can kind of hammer out what you're going to take next fall. Enjoy your senior year, graduate, play ball, knowing that your schedule's ready to go for next fall and you can kind of line up your classes. It's nice because we have priority registration at Sierra, so they get to kind of register before everyone else. Um, and they can get their schedules set up exactly how they want leading into the fall and into the spring semester.
Awesome. So not really too much like looking ahead to the even like the juniors currently. Like it's really kind of a year to year thing, would you say?
Yeah, we're still writing down the
Yeah.
juniors that we're
Yeah.
interested in it and
Mm,
loan, but there's so many guys I think even from junior year to senior year that make such big jumps.
mm,
Like they just hit that growth spurt and they make big jumps on the mound or um, at the plate that there's sometimes they're hard to tell. And then the
mm,
really, really good juniors are usually those guys that are already signing or doing stuff like that. So I think keeping the doors open for these young guys are important. Sometimes they're really good academically, and mom and dad, I totally get it. Don't want them to waste that academic part of it to go to a junior college, and they end up choosing like a Division III school, a small school in the middle of nowhere, which is great. But I always say, like, if you're gonna choose a school like that, I think if you go to a JC for one year, that you're only going to be bigger, stronger, faster, smarter. I think they're still going to want you after a year or two at Sierra. But now you open the doors to go to a bigger school too, if that was your dream to be a USC Trojan. We had a kid named Matt Fote years ago that played third base for us. He was going to go to kind of a smaller Division I school. Um, we ended up talking to him. His goal was to go to USC. That was his favorite school to go to. Didn't end up going to the small D1 school. Ended up coming to Sierra for a year. He's a first team All American guy. Scholarship to USC, as you know how the story goes. Plays 3 years at USC, gets drafted by the Washington Nationals, and forever is a Trojan. He gets to root him on
mm,
in all the sports, and it's kind of a dream come through. Caden Hunter, our lefty from 2 years ago, same thing, USC guy. He was a guy that came to me and was not a great classroom guy. Just said, Coach, I want to get drafted if it's at all possible because had a bad first semester with us. We sat down in my office and kind of said, how can we get you back on track? And then was all B's from then on. As a freshman, was their third starter. Kind of took that from him. He was struggling, put him in the bullpen. He thrived. And then the next year, he was our ace. He was the Big A Conference Pitcher of the Year and scholarship to USC, drafted by the Orioles last year. Played in Super Regionals on TV. We're all watching them last year. So some of these things take weird turns, and
mm.
sometimes they're for the best. And having someone there to just guide you in the right direction is important.
And I love that you mentioned that about kind of the 4 year schools. I was a D3 guy myself, but I always would tell guys like, hey man, if you're getting recruited by those D3 NAIA type of schools and you decide you want to go to a junior college, like as you said, your worst case scenario is you end up back at one of those places, right? But as you said, it kind of keeps the door open and maybe there's some progress that can be made to maybe open up some additional doors.
Yeah, and there's tons of great D3 and
Mm-hmm.
D2 schools that we send guys to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, these kids have that dream of being the D1 guy. And I'm like, if you want to be, don't crush the dream of doing it by settling for something that you aren't super excited, but they gave you a little bit of money type deal. Because you are going to develop as a person mentally, physically, all that kind of stuff. And then that's kind of our job. And we take our pride in doing that at Sierra. Um, but yeah, it opens those doors. And we send guys to Jessup and Chico State all the time, and they absolutely love it. Cal State, Monterey Bay, they all do really, really good jobs at these D2 schools, and they love the programs they're at. So they do have good programs too.
And a lot of those programs recruit pretty heavily out of the junior colleges as well. So there's definitely programs that are coming and calling you probably every year, like who you got, and then send us some names, kind of thing.
Well, that's the flip side too. Like these young freshmen go there and they don't realize they got 20
Yeah.
JC guys from the Big Eight conference that are battle tested, ready
Mm-hmm.
to go at these Division twos. That it's not easy to go play at those places either if you're a young freshman that has not been through that battle before.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of flips it. So now, Coach, talk a little bit more about kind of what you look for in recruits. Like when you're out looking at guys, when you're evaluating them, when you and your staff are out there, when you see a guy, what is it about a particular recruit, or about like the either the resume or what you're seeing with your own eyes that you're like, yeah, that's a Sierra guy. Like, what are some of kind of the sort of the bullet points that jump out at you?
Yeah, I think from an offensive standpoint, we've always prided ourselves on being able to, steal bags and play some small ball and, we slash a lot and we do different things with the bat and then we hit for power as well. So I think when we got a guy that can kind of do a bunch of different stuff like drag bunt and do all that, when we put all that stuff together offensively, it just becomes a scary offense. So having that repertoire, being able to have some wheels and run and have some physicality is important. And then just the mentality of how they get after it on the field is kind of that thing where you look at it and you go, God, that guy would be fun to coach. Like he would get after it on the field and off the field and, battle his butt off. And then on the mound, we've had so much success with left-handed pitching. I mean, we probably sent seven D1 left-handed pitchers in the last 7 years. So not that we're always looking for a lefty because everyone is, right? But they're always fun to get. My pitching coach now, Josh Morton's a left-handed pitcher, so I think he really can touch base with those lefty pitchers and find a way to connect with those guys too. So the importance of going to watch these games and these guys battle. I think the biggest thing is getting these guys on campus and seeing how the fit is. And we take them around on my golf cart and show them campus and just get to talk to mom and dad and where they're at with life and how they can help and just being engaged. Like it always helps when a recruit can come in and ask some questions, because sometimes I ask like, you got any questions? And they're like, they clam up or they get scared to talk or whatever. And that's okay too. But man, the guys that really are aggressive with like good questions, and I can be upfront and honest about answering those questions are important. But I think it just changes year to year to us. Like if I know we got depth at a certain position, we're not going that hard at that position because I want those guys to battle it out and earn their spot. And like this year's infield for us, we need infielders. We're loaded in the outfield right now. So not that you can't come in. We lose about half of our outfielders, but there's some really good outfielders out there returning. And things
Mm-hmm.
change too. You may think you're loaded, and then people leave to go to other programs, or they get a late scholarship. Like we lost Redding, our catcher, after his freshman year, maybe a month before we started school. Rich called me, and the Hawaii guy got drafted, and I was like, Rich, you're talking about Jake, one of my favorite players I've ever coached of all time. And he's like, yeah, I heard you got a guy. I'm like, dang it. And then I sat with my wife and I'm like, hey, if my son, who's a junior in high school, could return to Sierra or go to Hawaii on a pretty good scholarship to play for that program, I played there on their campus before. Something she goes, I'd send him right away. I go, I know, he's got to go. And
Yep.
Jake's like, Coach, I want to come back and go to the Final Four. I go, dude, you got to go. Like
Yeah.
you got 3 years at University of Hawaii, something you'll never get back, the college experience and just playing ball out there. And he loves it, and I was glad for him.
And that's part of the junior college coach gig, right? Is like, hey, I got guys, I get them for just that part of their experience, and I'm trying to get them on and move them on, and that's just part of the gig, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've had probably maybe five guys in the last 3 years that are really good academically or qualifiers out of high school that have had really good freshman year, and schools have come calling after their freshman year, so they get to go play 3 years at a really good Division I school. As much as it hurts our program to not have these really good D1 guys on there, but we get to move them on after 1 year, and that's my goal. And D1 coaches will call me and say like, "Hey, are you okay with me contacting this kid?" Or because some coaches aren't. They want to hang on to those
Mm-hmm.
guys. And I'm like, man, that's my job is to move these guys on as
Yep.
fast as they can. If they're ready, they're ready. Let's move them on to the next level.
I love it. Great. That's a great mindset. I love to hear that. Now, Coach, just a few minutes here. I appreciate the time so far this morning, but just some advice for families in recruiting. Like, what are some things that you've seen that have been, yeah, that's really good. Like, families should do that in the recruiting process as far as communicating with me or interacting with me. These are things that are like, oh, that hurt maybe that family or that recruiting kind of interaction with me. What are some things that you would say are kind of your green flags and red flags when it comes to interactions in recruiting?
Well, I think just, some of the out of the area people, or even in area people that come on recruiting trips, they bring mom or dad, or one of them or both of them. I think it's important because mom and dad will ask more questions than the kids sometimes, and they'll get more answers out of me or the coaching staff that's walking you around. And asking those questions, but bringing your parents with you so that they feel comfortable, especially if you're from out of the area, right? I always tell the parents that out of the area, like, this is not my first rodeo. I will take care of your kid and make sure he's on the straight and narrow and getting after it in the classroom and on the baseball field. He's not going to have much time to do much else. In general, they'll have their free time weekends in the fall and stuff like that. But when we get rolling, it's, we got weights and training and games almost every day. So there's always something to be done. But I think asking those questions are important, and then feel comfortable in the area that you're sending your kid off to live is important for a parent. And then I always tell them if they want to Zoom later and then talk on Zoom or FaceTime me and ask more questions about stuff. I usually try to make a list of our guys that need an apartment or a dorm, and we try to like get our baseball guys to live with each other. They're usually on the same schedule, so I think that helps mom and dad figure that whole process out, so they're not living with a random kind of person that's not on the same schedule and keeping them up all night or whatever it may be. I think that gives them a little bit of peace of mind that there's another baseball player there looking to make the team so they're in the same kind of focus lane
Mm.
together.
What does it sound like when you're ready to make an offer to a guy? I think families are, sometimes I think they are a little confused. Like maybe there's like gray area, but we try to tell them like it's usually not a gray area, right? But kind of talk about like when you're ready to say we got a spot for you. Like how does that conversation go, and like what do you expect as far as like a decision back timeline wise and so forth? Talk about that a little bit if you could.
I think with the kids, sometimes out of state kids are like, is there like a letter of intent I sign,
You're
or
right.
is there? I'm like, there's nothing really.
Yep.
There's nothing other than, a Jerry Maguire style, like it's your word is as good as oak type deal. So we always want a decision sooner than later. I think it helps us map out our process and our depth chart and everything like that. I don't put a timeline on our guys at all. I'm usually constantly in contact with them, letting them know like we're interested in having you. I think you'd be a great fit. And then being upfront and honest about where our depth chart is at certain position is going to help that kid make a decision. And then you can do your homework. Like maybe you're feeling a little uneasy about, is that coach telling me the truth about his depth chart, or is he not? I mean, go on the roster and look how many catchers do they have returning? How many infielders do they lose next year? And I mean, you can go on my roster right now, and I'll tell you there's 6 infielders that are graduating next year from our club, and it's important for us to bring in guys. And then I think then another part of like seeing an email about a kid is like shortstop, second base, third base, right field. Like they'll list themselves as a multiple different player in the thing, and I want to know that you're a shortstop. Like if you're a shortstop, say you're a shortstop, and then don't say anything else. If you're a center fielder, say you're a center field. I just got one this morning. He said center field, left field, right field, at first base. I'm like, if you're a center fielder, say you're a center fielder. I know as a coaching, I get 4 center fielders every year, and we put them in all the spots, and then we go recruit 5 shortstops, and we put one at third, one at second, one at first base. Like if you're a shortstop, that's good. And I'm not saying we wouldn't recruit a second baseman or a true third baseman, but like live up to what you are. The coach knows if you're a shortstop, you can probably play all the infield positions. He knows if you're a center fielder, you can probably play all the outfield positions. And I think I pride our outfield with like my guys move around all the time. They have to play right and left and center and not be stuck and pigeonholed into one spot because we move guys and pinch hit and throw guys in the lineup here and there. And then I have multiple guys that can play the outfield and second base and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, the coaches know if you're a middle infielder, you can kind of play all over the place. You're a center fielder, you can play all over the place. It kind of discredits your positioning when you list multiple different things. An athlete's an athlete. We can kind of put them all over the place. And you might never know. You might never have played first base before, but guess what? We have 2 first basemen hurt. and you might need to go sneak over there and figure out how to do it. So I think having that versatility is important, and being available once you get to the team. Um, but if you're a shortstop in high school, say you're a shortstop. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes they try to project what they're going to be at the next level. I hear that from high school coaches all the time. Well, he's my shortstop, but he's, probably a second baseman at the next level. No, I want to see you in the fall at Sierra play shortstop, and then I'll make that decision if you can't play that position because you might be our best option at shortstop. So
Yeah.
don't discredit your value. Um, Stick to what you are.
I love that you mentioned that. I tell families that all the time, right? Like even if you are a true versatile player, like you've got a primary position, make sure that they know what that is because as you said, there's only so many Ben Zobrist kind of guys out there, right? You're probably not Ben Zobrist, right? Like, everybody's got to have a primary position, then we'll figure it out from there. So I,
Yeah,
I love that you
Kike
mentioned that.
Hernandez, God,
Yeah.
those guys can play all over the place, and they're a
Mm-hmm.
dream. And we have a couple of
Mm-hmm.
those guys too they're fun. They're fun to have. I mean,
Yep.
just to plug and play them kind of where you want, and
Mm-hmm.
you can put them in. It just helps with the versatility of your lineup late in the
No
game,
doubt.
especially.
No doubt. Awesome. Well, Coach, this has been awesome. I apologize putting you on the spot a little bit. I was going to give you a heads up before we started, but I wanted to hear like one funny anecdote or one funny story from your playing days or your coaching days. If you need to take a second, but what's a story that sticks in your mind here from just those days that you could share with us today?
Probably a playing day. Funny story was, I don't know that I'll say his name, but you'll probably figure it out. When I was at USF, we had a young man that hit 30 home runs. He was on the team with Rich Hill. He was a first team All American. I think he was on Baseball America cover with, I think it was John Gall back then and Borchard from Stanford. He
Mm-hmm.
would he would mid game always have to go to the bathroom, and he would never quite make it to the bathroom very often. So the garbage can in the dugout ended up being quite often a place where he just, he couldn't make it. Sometimes he had to walk all the way to the locker room and stuff. And I don't know if that led to him hitting 30 home runs. I guess if I could have hit 30 home runs, maybe I would have tried it too. But just a funny story that I remember from college. Maybe that was too much information, but it was always funny and it stuck out to me, and it was weird and all of the above.
You get away with anything if you hit 30 bombs, right? Like I don't know where the limit is. Is it 12? Is it 13? It's like you can't do that until you get to 15. Like what's the
Yeah,
what's the number?
I guess so. I guess so.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, I appreciate the time this morning, man. I know you got a busy schedule, got some games this week, so I'll let you get back to it. But love to get you back on again here sometime soon for sure.
Anytime, Andy. I appreciate it, man. Take care of yourself. We love what you guys do, moving these guys on and stuff. It's awesome. If you ever have
Awesome.
anything, any questions, or need me for anything, I'm there.
Appreciate it, Coach. That's awesome. Have a great rest of the week, man. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Yep. Bye.